This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com and World Class Pro Wrestling. I'm also a reporter for them. And today we have none other than the owner of World Class Pro Wrestling, Gary the Boss Bostic, and James Beard, the legendary official who is now joined World Class Pro Wrestling, will be coming on the podcast a bit later too. But how are you doing, Jerry? I understand you had a bit of a workout earlier today.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I referee basketball too, so that's always fun. It's good to spend time with the kids and hang out. I love basketball. Obviously, I'm a huge Lakers fan. Basketball could be going better for us this year. Hey, there's James. How's it going, man?
I'm here. Yeah. How you doing, man?
Man, great. We're excited to
Good.
have you tonight. Thank you for coming on.
Happy to be here.
Happy to have you as a part of the company too, for sure.
Well, it's exciting. I tell you, it's kind of like going home a little bit for me.
It is, right?
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Long history with World Class Pro Wrestling. Maybe you could just fill us in on some of your accomplishments, James, for those that may not have seen you, maybe watching in other areas. But obviously, the Texas fans are very familiar with you for all your years as a referee and other duties in wrestling.
Well, yeah, you want me to toot my own horn now? Okay,
Toot it loud. Toot it loud.
Well, I started out as a referee. That's true, and I got lucky early on, and ended up with a good deal in Japan, and worked over there for several years, and that really led to a lot of opportunities for me. I ended up in the booking side of things as far as handling talent and working with developing matches and just the whole spectrum is the creative side of wrestling. So it really kind of led to a lot of good things for me, that whole experience in Japan, and when, of course, that fed to things here in the United States, and worked with World Class, with Global, USWA before that, and Global, all that in the Sportatorium. Worked in the Sportatorium until it closed, and of course I worked with NWA and just a number of USWA, a number of promotions over the years. But I've been very fortunate. It's been a good ride, and I feel like I still have a little bit left to offer, and I want to try to do that to the best of my ability with World Class. I'm excited about it.
We have no doubt that you still have a lot to offer. We're very happy to have you. So, whenever you were growing up, most of us in the wrestling business were huge wrestling fans. Was that you too? Were you a huge fan growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember watching wrestling I'm going to date myself now, on an old black and white TV, and we lived about 90 miles from Dallas, close to Tyler. And we watched it whenever the reception was good enough to watch it anyway. Back in those days, they had a studio show on Channel 4, I believe it was. And then of course the Saturday night show that was taped at Northside Coliseum. And then later on, of course, the World Class thing and that was shown on Sunday mornings that became so popular. But yeah, I was a big fan as a kid, and just like all of us were. And my folks took me to the Sportatorium for the first time. I think I was probably maybe 8 or 9 years old or something like that, and I got to see Danny McShane and Bull Curry and Red Bastine and I can't remember all the guys that were on that card the first time, but the funny thing about it is a lot of those guys I got to know later on, and that's exciting too. That's a wonderful thing about this business.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. It's almost surreal in a lot of senses to grow up watching these people,
Yeah.
and then later on in life get a chance to work with them.
Yeah, it really is.
It's definitely a blessing. I don't know about you, but I always think to myself, like I've always, I feel like I've been blessed so much in wrestling to do the things that I've done, way more than I ever even thought possible.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a dream come true. I remember the first time I stepped in the Sportatorium ring. Yeah, I was like, wow.
I can't even imagine.
I'm here doing something that I just used to play like I was doing back when I was a kid, and it was very exciting and humbling at the same time.
So, who trained you to be a referee?
Nobody.
What?
I was playing music in the Dallas area, and I got to know some of the guys, and talking to them, they found out I had a little bit of a clue. Some of them did, and Bruiser Brody was one of those guys, and basically just said, hey, you know how you teach somebody how to swim when you throw them in the water and tell them they, swim or drown. Well, that's kind of how I learned. And honestly, I learned more by listening than I did anything else. And I paid attention. I kind of had a clue about wrestling as I watched it from a different perspective, I think, than maybe just being a fan for a long time. And I'm sure you did the same thing. And and I kind of had a clue about things, and that was obvious to them, I guess. And when they kind of convinced me to give it a little try, it was just a natural feel for me. I felt really comfortable in the ring. Maybe part of that was because I'd been in music and I'm the front guy, and I wasn't afraid of being in front of people, and that was part of it. And the other part was just, I'd been in athletics too, and I just felt really, really natural in that ring, and so I just learned on the fly. I learned by paying attention, by shutting up and listening, and trying to do the things the right way, and that's how I learned. I didn't really have a trainer. All those guys were my trainers. They really were.
So whenever you first broke in, you mentioned Bruiser Brody. Who were some of the guys that helped you at first to get into it?
Akbar, Gary Hart, Red Bastine, Johnny Valentine. All those guys were kind of my mentors. And they would give me advice, and a lot of it was just listening to what they were saying. I didn't go to them and just say, hey, how do you do this or what? And I just listened to them talking sometimes, and I pick up on things, and riding in the car with guys like Akbar or something, you can't help but learn something. And I really learned more of what not to do than what to do in many cases. but it was really a unique process for me. I never had any kind of formal training whatsoever. It was a feel thing, and luckily for me, it worked out that it was a fit, and evidently I did some things right. So. I guess opportunities came my way, and especially the deal in Japan. Kendo Nagasaki, who Kazuo Sakurada was his real name. He was a big part of that. He took me over there and gave me those opportunities. And as far as I know, I'm the only foreign referee to ever actually work for Japanese companies. I mean, actually being, not. I know others have gone over and done shows and tours, but as far as being actually a part of the crew, a part of that company, that I think, as far as I know, I'm the only one.
That's amazing. Did you actually get the Ribera jacket while you were over there?
I did. Yeah.
It's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah, I don't remember what trip it was. It was during that first few months that I was over there, and I honestly don't even remember who I was with. I'm sure it was somebody who they knew, and it was kind of funny. The first time I went to Japan, they know everything over there. They know what's going on over here. They've got guys that taking pictures and following what we're doing over here. And then when you go over there, they already know everything about you. And I didn't expect that from me, because I was just going over as a referee, and for some reason, they had it in the magazines, and they made a big deal out of it, and it turned out to be incredible experience for me. The second trip I made over there, I was the only gaijin. It was me and the Japanese crew, and after it was over with, they took me to the learning center, or the training center, and Kabuki asked me, he said, I want you to sit down and write all the terms of wrestling, every hold, every move, everything, even the parts of the ring. And what they were doing is they were taking this and writing it out and using that to help some of those words aren't in Japanese. They don't have it. So a lot of wrestling terms are just English terms. And they were using those things to help kind of teach the young guys. And And that got me into training guys because I found that it was easier to show them than it was to just tell them. So I got into training that way and involved in that part of the business. So it just led to so many things for me.
And World Class was your first gig, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What year did you get into World
85. Yeah. I missed all the good glory stuff. You know, I was kind of the tail end of it, you know, but you know, when I started, it was kind of like things weren't quite as hot as they had been. But
so how did you feel towards the end of World Class as it transitioned to USWA? How did you feel during that period?
It was a little sad in some ways, but at the same time, you know, I was just excited to be a part of anything. You know, I had become very passionate about it by then, and Eric Embry was a part of all that transition and everything.
That dastardly Eric Embry tearing down the banner.
Yeah, and here I am working with Eric again after all these
Isn't
years.
that wild? It's weird. I think really most things in life, they come full circle if you let it in some sort of way.
They do. But you know, the good thing about it is such a great guy. You know,
yes,
and
he
and Kevin, I've get to continue to work with Kevin. I've been working with him for the last couple of years, and it's such a natural field, you know, for me. And you know, I was sitting at I just got back home from West Texas. I was doing some deer hunting out there, and I literally just got back 30 minutes ago. And I was sitting at a deer stand talking to Eric Embry about wrestling. You know.
You can't make that up.
No, you don't get, you know, it never leaves you. You're always there wherever you are. If you're passionate about it, you're always thinking about it or doing something with it. And I'm just really happy to have that opportunity to work with Eric again. But those times were, you know, the wrestling has always been cyclical. It's gone around in circles that sometimes it's really hot, sometimes it's not. And at that point in time, things in Dallas had really kind of chilled a little bit. Eric helped bring it back, and that was exciting. But you know, the whole business as a whole was kind of going on a downturn, and it was a tough time for wrestling.
That was probably the same time that WWF was even going through it.
Well, they come in, you know, of course, and I think it was 83 or 84, and kind of took over everything, and then they even had a little issue, you know, there for a while, but they're having a little issue now. So, you know, it goes up. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you compare ratings then to ratings now, what they were back in those days and what they are now is a big difference. But
it's amazing to me just how much that's changed in general. Now you have to factor in DVR.
Yeah, so much.
How to account for streaming, just so many areas.
So much, and so many things for people to watch, and so many things for people to do. Media, social media, the overall media is such an enormous thing these days that you have to deal with.
Worry about TV and hanging flyers in town.
Yeah,
it was it. Now you have to have this mega checklist of all these different areas, you know. But I mean, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because it's, you know, it's a lot easier to reach a wider audience in the sense because you can get on social media and reach the world.
Yeah, you
at the same time, they can also watch wrestling at the drop of a dime, and they don't have to go to live events, you know. But to me, and I'm sure you're the same way, like there's nothing like seeing it live.
No,
you can watch it all day on the computer, on your TV, whatever, but it's just never going to be the same.
No, it's always going to be different, but you have to accept those things and adjust to them and try to make the best of them and do the best you can with it. My philosophy has always been put the best product out there you can put and try to let people you know who are there and hope for the best. You know, I have a real strong belief that there's a core fan base out there that longs for a certain type of wrestling that we can provide on this level and doing the things the way we're doing it. And I really believe that. I'm until somebody proves me different, you know, I'll probably always believe that. And that's what I'm hoping for, and I'm hoping to be a part of. And I know with the guys that we have that we can do that.
Absolutely. To me, that there definitely is a void for that type of wrestling, and I think you guys touched on it whenever you were with SWE. I think you
Yeah.
guys touched on that there too, and it showed that there's still a market for that, a big market.
Well, you have to be dedicated to a certain thing. If you want to try to follow the crowd and try to be like somebody else, then you're probably going to fail, because they can do it bigger and better than you. If you're talking about WWE or AEW, the guys that are already out there doing that. So you have to establish some kind of style, or some kind of philosophy that core fan base can relate to, and be willing to stick to it. And that, yeah, we were doing that and doing it successfully. We were drawing a lot of the house shows were always good. And I think that thing works. I think it's just something that you have to really be dedicated to.
Yeah, it's people don't understand too. The difference between SWE World Class and then like an AEW and WWE. We don't have that kind of staff. We don't have the resources in a lot of ways, so we have to make everything count.
Yeah, and it's such a fine line that you're walking there too all the time. You have to do that. Like you said, you have to make everything count, and if anything goes wrong, then the whole thing can go wrong. And
absolutely, you can have 5 or 6 really good shows, and then one bad one can just set you so far back.
Absolutely, or one anything can set you back, and unfortunately that happens sometimes. You try to avoid it, but you just you're always walking that line. You got to be careful.
I think World Class and SWE both, you get it caught in this dangerous situation, because there's a difference between being an indie company and a major company, obviously. And getting caught in between is a very dangerous place to be.
Very much so, because you don't want to be on that lower level, or at least you want to have the fans look at you in that way, that perception of you being a lower level. But at the same time, you have to be careful what you do when you're moving yourself up that way and exposing yourself, and there's a lot of pitfalls. It's dangerous, and you have to be careful. But I feel very, like I said, I keep saying this, but I really, really believe this. With guys that are quality people involved, I think that you can avoid most of those pitfalls anyway, the major ones, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Absolutely.
What is your job going to be with World Class, James? Maybe you guys could let the fans know exactly what your role is going to be. I asked Jerry the other day if you were going to be refereeing, but I guess maybe here and there, but not full time.
Well, I'm kind of like that old song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. So
good song.
It really is, yeah. And that kind of describes me these days. I've been around a long time, and I think I can still work at an elite level in the ring if that needs to be done. But I don't know that I want to do that for 6 or 8 matches a night. But yeah, I'll probably put the referee shirt on a few times, but otherwise I'll be doing pretty much whatever Jerry wants me to do, and helping with Eric and Kevin in the creative side of things, and there's a lot of things for us to handle. It really is. We've already experienced that to some degree, and I'm kind of finding my footing. I'm just going to try to be the best helper I can be. That's what I'm going to do.
I think we're all at this point, we're trying to find our footing amongst each other. Yeah. And the good thing is that, we've all done a lot on our own. And so for us all to come together and the calls that we've had, they're so harmonious. Like, we have no issues at all. There's no egos. All of us are just wanting to put out the best product. And I think that's what it has to be like.
And that's the important part. Eric was telling me yesterday when I was talking to him, and he said, please, if you see something that I'm suggesting and you think it should be a different way, please tell me. And that's the attitude you have to have. That's the attitude I've always had when I'm booking. And Kevin's pretty much the same way. He's that kind of guy. And I think that's so important. It's just you can really turn wrestling into or a wrestling organization into a mess if you have that kind of contrariness involved. But you can make it a really nice situation if you look at it that way, the way we're talking about, that you're just trying to help. You're trying to be part of the success.
I've always been a firm believer, you want to surround yourself with people that are better than you, people that have been where you want to go.
Yeah.
And I think the great thing about all of us is we've all done some pretty great things, and we've all done them in different areas, like different time frames, different companies. And so we have all these experiences all this experience we're bringing together. And, like I said, I never care, whenever we have calls and stuff like that, I never care if it's my ideas we use. I just want the best ones. It never matters to me.
Absolutely. And you're right. We all have different, maybe a little bit different expertise in different areas, but different experiences, and different influences for that matter. But I think all of our philosophies are pretty close to the same. And that's the important part. If you're all headed the same direction, then you can take all those things and all those differences and put them together and come up with something pretty nice.
Do you guys have any plans, since starting December 11th in Irving, World Class is going to be running twice a month in the Dallas market? Irving one night, Fort Worth the next. That's a pretty big thing to take on, to come to the same market every single month, 2 nights in a row. What are some of your plans to keep the fans coming back?
Well, that's going to be a trick, to be honest with you. But I think that the creativity that we have involved and the people we have here, I believe we'll be able to handle that. I think we'll be able to create situations that people want to come back and see, and I think that's the key to it right now. The long-term thing would be, we want to build our own talent and make those guys as desirable to come watch every night as they used to, some of the talent that used to come out of World Class years ago. And that's the long-term goal, to do that, and to have hopefully I'm hoping that we can have some kind of local media outlet at some point. I'm sure Jerry's working on that, or trying to get that done. That would be a big plus. But I think with the minds that we have involved, I believe we'll be able to take situations and create them where people want to come back 2 nights in a row in the same area.
I think that we all understand too that it's not going to be built or given to us. It's not going to be given to us at first. We're going to have to build it. And, I think we're establishing a good group of people to start building that. I think one mistake I made last time, and I think SWE even kind of fell to the same pitfall. You cannot rely on name talent to build your company. You can rely on them to help you build your talent and to get people in initially, but in the long term, it's not going to work. You have to, whenever you bring people in, you have to think about a return on investment on these people.
Right.
And, when you have one, okay, you can probably get a return on investment on them. But as you pile them up, you have 4 or 5, 6, 7 people in a show. Now you're talking a totally different situation. And it's absolutely vital, like you just said, for us to build our own talent.
Absolutely, and create situations that people want to come back and see, and there's no question that some of the name talent can help you at least enhance that to begin with, or along the way, but you can't depend on that, because you can't depend on them. It's that simple.
Absolutely, and I think we're absolutely working on local television at the moment. Hopefully we have that pinned down by December, January. We also have our streaming service. Now content is also a thing too. It's amazing how much the business evolves in general.
Yeah.
And now, it's a good situation to have, to have a content problem. It's a good situation to have, because now we're like, hey, we're obviously having demand already, and we have to create the product to get to each one of these forms of media that we need to get stuff out on. And, it's a blessing to have you guys be a part of it in general, because I have no doubt that amongst all of us, we're going to put out a really great product that people are going to want to see, and they're going to want to come to both shows. And Irving and North Richland Hills are 30 minutes apart, I believe,
right,
so it will
right.
be easily accessible for everybody to see both shows as well.
Yeah, and that's just, like I said, it's just a matter of creativity and situations, and we got, I mean, we're so lucky. I mean, you think about it. Kevin Sullivan is one of the smartest guys ever in this business.
Ever.
WCW, he was a mastermind of actually. They probably would have kicked Vince's ass if they'd have left him alone. We'd probably all be working for Kevin right now.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, and I tell people that, and that's been fine with me too. Absolutely. And Eric, yeah, he proved that he knew how to do that when he was taking over World Class, and took it from a time when it was really, really down, and just built it right back up again. And he's such a smart guy himself, and such a good guy. And I think that the four of us probably can put our heads together and come up with some ideas that'll work. And I feel really confident about that.
I do too. And, I think one thing with World Class, the last time that people are going to see way different this time with us, we were excellent at putting together spot shows.
Right.
And, with us making the trend towards more of an episodical TV approach, they're going to see a big shift in storylines, the way characters are presented, the way the product's presented in general. Before, I enjoyed doing all of these different types of shows. I mean, we had like movie crossovers. We had football shows, basketball shows. We had spot shows, school shows, every kind of show you could think of. But I think we're attempting to streamline the product, and we're going to present a whole product, as a unit that people can tune in and follow the entire thing.
It is a different mindset to do spot shows and do, like you said, episodic type situations. I think that one advantage we have in some ways is going to be easier because we're booked out for a whole year there.
Yes.
And we know we're going to be there. One of the problems we had with SWE sometimes is we didn't know. We had like 2 or 3 months ahead of time, maybe 1 month ahead of time, and you can't plan that way. You have to know where you're going to be in order to know where you're going to go, and a lot of that was a difficult situation for us. And I have to say that a lot of that was during that COVID time too. So it was some amazing things done during a very difficult time.
My hat's off to you guys. I remember seeing, and I think I told you about it privately whenever it was all going on. Like, man, you guys were doing amazing work during a period where, outside of the major companies, nobody really was running shows. Right. You guys took that, capitalized on it, did it effectively. I mean, it was really what you guys did during that time period. To me, anyways, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's going to be people out there that are going to go be haters and that kind of thing, but if you
always,
always, that's the way this business is. But if you think about it, that period of time, that was a source for a lot of guys to get some work that wouldn't Absolutely. Have gotten it otherwise, and a lot of people got to see wrestling that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten to see, and they got to see some good wrestling. I could sit here and tell you some negative things, and and tell you some things that should have happened and didn't happen or shouldn't have happened. But why? What's the point? The point is that it is what it is, and that's a Red Best theme thing, by the way. I'm not a guy that keeps looking backwards. I want to look forward, and I'm proud of what we got to do and what we accomplished, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to doing even more now.
Well, I think you said it great. And I think it comes to the stuff we went through with World Class the last time, SWE, whatever. It doesn't gain anybody anything to get on here and be negative about it. It just doesn't. And, I think that's unfortunately a trend in society in a lot of ways. People tend to focus on the negative. But on the flip side of it, you guys had so much to be proud of. And it's no different than the last run of World Class, I made a lot of mistakes. There's, on the daily. I'm not perfect, never will be, but my heart is good and my intentions are good, and And, I feel like our heart was always in our product. And I felt like you guys too, the same way. Like the product you put out, your heart was in it. You believed in it. You guys did a lot of great things in Texas. And there's nothing negative to say about it. I've said it publicly before. Sometimes a company just grows too fast.
That's another issue. That's absolutely true. It can happen, and you can find yourself in a position like, what do I do now? Because I don't have the resources to really do what I need to do, and and that puts you in a bad situation. So you have to be careful about that, and I'm afraid that might have been part of it too.
I think so. At
Yeah.
one point, I mean, how many different TV outlets and online outlets did you
Oh
guys
my
have?
goodness,
You had a lot.
a lot, and you got to, if you got those things, the only way for them to pay off is for somebody for the ads to be sold.
And people have no idea that have
Yeah.
not done it. And I'm not knocking anybody that's watching for not knowing, but you have no idea how hard it is to sell that ad time. It is so hard.
Yeah, even when you're trying to almost give it away, it's hard. And but two, uh, there's always that aspect that do you have all the right people in the right positions and doing the right things, and that's a tough situation too when you're trying to do everything yourself.
Oh yeah.
It can be a pretty daunting situation for you, and that happens sometimes, and a lot of things fall through the cracks. A lot of people fall through the cracks. Mistakes are made, and it just happens, and
Yeah, absolutely.
unfortunately that's a narrative that you see in this business a lot of times, and you talked about people being negative and society being negative. Wrestling has always been kind of a reflection of society anyway, and unfortunately that part of it gets involved in this business too, especially in some levels, and it's sad really that it happens, but that's just the way it is.
It really is sad. I think most of us, we get into wrestling because we love it. But
Absolutely.
oftentimes, whether it be our lives, whether it be our journey in wrestling, something along the way, sometimes people forget that.
Yeah.
And you would think if you're all in something that everybody loves, you would be supporting each other and helping each other instead of tearing each other down. And not everybody does that, but there is a large a large amount of people that do in the wrestling world, and we would be so much stronger in a lot of senses if we were united.
I,
And I mean, that's just my opinion on it.
Absolutely. I stay involved because I do love it. I'm passionate about it.
I think all of us do.
I
If
don't.
you're in
Yeah.
this and you don't love it and you're not happy, I don't know
Yeah.
why you'd mess with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It can be pretty painful sometimes. I don't have to do it. I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm in a position I don't have to do it, but I want to do it. I want to be. I want to be a part of something that's positive and grows, and I'm determined that as long as I can do that, I'm going to try to do it. If I have that opportunity, and thank goodness for you and for World Class that I'm getting that opportunity again. I'm really thankful for that.
Man, the pleasure is all ours. We're all very excited to have you on board. Whenever we made the call, like I immediately felt better about things, honestly, because I know, me and you can do a lot of great work together. I talked to Tom. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about Tom Lance, the owner of SWE. I talked about Tom beforehand, and he couldn't say enough. I mean, which we already knew each other anyways. But,
Right.
Tom couldn't say enough about how much you helped him, and I knew good and well that me and you could work really well together and accomplish a lot of great things too. So I mean, it definitely, I went to Eric and Kevin and I said, I really feel like James is going to be a great asset to us, and honestly, I feel like he's going to be great for me to work with personally. And I mean, as you know, they were both so on board with it. And
Well, that was an important factor for me too. And I just wanted to make sure that they were good with it, and they knew that my intentions were just strictly to be the best helper I can be, and that's it. I've done that my whole career basically. I mean, I've had the situation where I was the guy, but I also most of my career I've been the guy that's in the middle, and the guy that helps the guy, and I'm comfortable there. I don't have a problem with that.
me too. I've never, I don't care. When I've worked other people's shows, I just do whatever you want. I don't care. I don't have that ego. I don't have that pride. Okay, if I'm wrestling, you want me to go out and put somebody over? I don't care.
Yeah.
You want me to,
Yeah.
just help you with things in the back or do whatever? I don't care. As long as it's benefiting what's going on and helping out whoever I'm working with, then great.
Yeah, the positive situation. That's all you're looking for, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I just feel blessed that for had to have the opportunity, to be honest with you.
So out of all the jobs you've had in wrestling, which one do you enjoy the most? Do you have one above the other? Because you wore so many different hats.
Uh, these days, I probably enjoy the creative side more than anything, and I like working with the talent. I've always enjoyed that. I've always been the guy that, even back in the days of the sportatorium, they'd come to me and they'd say, I was just a referee, and they say, well, look, we want this guy to do this or this. You'd talk to him.
You were that guy.
I was that guy. And I became kind of a negotiator sometimes, because I'd go and I know when I would tell this guy, look, I want you to do this, and he's not going to want to do it, and so we would find a way to get around that and go back and make like a counter proposal to the office, and so I've always kind of been in that situation, and I feel comfortable there with working with the talent in that way. But I love the creative process. It's probably the most satisfying part of it, but I still enjoy being in the ring once in a while, especially if it's with guys that really know what they're doing. There's nothing more satisfying than getting in the ring and knowing that you took everybody for the ride you wanted to take them on, and it worked.
Absolutely.
It unfortunately it doesn't happen as often these days as it used to. It used to be just a common thing, but I still enjoy that. But I think the creative side of it is my favorite, probably.
So what's your fondest memories of the old world class? If you had to think just a few things like that really stick out to you that made your time there special, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I mean obviously the most predominant thing about world class was that Freebird Von Erich feud.
Oh my goodness!
And
still one of the best feuds ever.
Yeah. Gary Hart really kind of started that thing, and then he left. He got pissed off at Vince and left. I mean, not Vince, Fritz, and left. And Ken Mantell kind of took it over. Gary told me, he said he could have messed up that. No way. But I think probably my fondest memories are really of that thing, that whole situation, because it wasn't just the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. You had Iceman, you had Chris Adams, you had Bruiser Brody involved, Kabuki, One Man Gang, all those guys. It was such an incredible situation, and plethora of talent. It was just, and it's so well done for a while. And I actually got to put the last 3 count on the whole deal.
Wow!
Yeah, and the last time the Von Erichs and the Freebirds got together was at Carey's Memorial, and I wasn't planning on working at all that night. We had David Manning coming back in, and Bronco was coming back in, and I was just going to kind of help work in the back and that kind of thing. And Fritz came up and he said, okay, who's refereeing the main event? And I said, David. He said, no, you are. And I went,
that had to feel good.
Okay.
Very humbling, I bet.
Yeah. And so technically I got to be the guy that helped in that, I guess, put the last 3 count on it. But, being in the ring with those guys, such an incredible experience. I remember the first time standing in the ring and Freebird started, and I was like, and honestly, I don't get really too caught up in those kinds of things. I'm not a big mark for anybody in particular, and I don't get that nervous in the ring at all. Never, never have, even for the first time. but when I heard that Freebird start, I honestly had chills coming down. I mean, it was incredible. And it's kind of the same thing with Stranglehold and then those kind of,
Just iconic.
oh my gosh, it's such an incredible experience to be standing there waiting for those guys to come to the ring. And so those memories are something I really hold dear, in world, as far as world class goes, and working the sportatorium. What an incredible experience that was. It was my home.
We had Jose on here. He wants to know if you would share a Bronco Lubitz story. I'm sure you have tons.
Yeah, Bronco. He was another guy I consider a mentor too. He was such an incredibly smart guy. He knew everything. He was one of those guys that even if he wasn't involved in the creative side of it directly, they would go to him. He and Akbar both. They would go to those guys and say, "Hey, does this sound okay?" That's how much respect they had. There's the old rumor that Bronco would count with his feet, but he wasn't really. I don't remember him ever actually doing that. But he would lean down and grab the rope and count like this. He'd hold on to the ropes and count. He just couldn't move that well. But one of my favorite things about Bronco, and a lot of people probably didn't even notice it, was he obviously was an ex-wrestler. He was a great wrestler at one time, and a manager, and then of course he was refereeing. And I remember one night, and I can't remember who it was in the ring with him, but I remember that they kind of ran into him. It was an accident. They ran into him, and he took the most beautiful bump. I mean, the classic bump that you teach. And I thought, that's just ingrained in this guy. It's just there. And that was one of my favorite Bronco moments, because it just showed what a pro he was. But he was a wonderful guy, super guy. Really miss him and the guidance that he gave me over the years.
Herb Simmons is actually joining us tonight. Hello, Herb.
Hey, Herb, how you doing, man? Hello,
he
Herb.
Wants to know what you could share about working Bruiser Brody's matches.
He's a big Bruiser Brody fan. Yeah, and I know Herb booked Bruiser a lot of times in his promotion up there. And
Herb seems like a really good guy.
He is a super guy, wonderful guy, good friend. I love Herb. It's funny because you think about things that happen in the ring, but for me, the first time I worked with him, he just told me to stay out of the way, and that's what I did. and he ended up hitting me over the head with something. I can't remember what it was now, but one of the things I remember about Bruiser is in the dressing room one time, the guys were cutting up, and I think it was John Tatum. One of them, they were just cutting up, acting silly, doing something silly. Yes. And Bruiser walked up behind him, and he looked around and saw him, and it was like he just stopped. It was that kind of respect, like, okay, I can be silly with everybody else, but I can't be silly with him. It was kind of, those are the kinds of things I remember. Those little things out of the way that didn't happen in the ring that mean so much. But Bruiser was. He was such an important part of world class. I mean, everywhere else he was considered a heel, a bad guy, and here he was a hero. He was a friend of the Von Erichs. He came in and took care of business for him, and such an incredibly intelligent person. And you hear all these rumors about him and everything, but he was really not a hard guy to deal with at all. If you dealt with him the way you should deal with him. And I'm sad about even thinking about losing him. And I think about Barbara and Jeff, and there's no way that should have ever happened. But he was a iconic presence in this business. And over in Japan, when I'd go over there, he was like a god. Unbelievable.
Granny Holster's with us, and she wants to know what's some of your favorite matches with JBL, and you guys are also very good friends, correct?
Very good. Yeah, I talked to him just a couple of days ago. He called me. He got to see Black Bart up in some kind of signing thing up in New York. He was all excited. He gave me a call. We talked for probably 45 minutes, My favorite memories of him, oh my goodness, there's so many because we were such close friends. And my favorite.
Did you know whenever he first broke in, did you think he was going to end up being the big star that he was?
I knew he was going to do well. I knew he was one of those guys that was going to succeed for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was kind of like Steve Austin was. He was a guy that studied the business. He paid attention. He watched and listened. The other thing was he had all the skills. And the other thing was he was such a great I guess business guy. He understood the business. And I knew he was going to make it. I knew he was going to do well. He
obviously understands business in general, apparently.
Oh, well, yeah. That's
He's apparently a very intelligent guy.
That's a whole nother story. He's been very successful. And his father was a banker, so he kind of got some of that naturally. But my favorite, it was the first time we met. And I've told the story. I wrote about it in the book, I think. He actually told the story when he was given the Hall of Fame at WWE. He just showed up at the Sportatorium one afternoon. We were sitting there in the booking room talking about we didn't have a main event because our champion was supposed to be against somebody else, and whoever it was wasn't going to be able to make it. And you know how that is. You've been there.
Yeah.
And we're sitting
just
there.
Had that recently.
Yeah, we're rewriting TV to fit that, and thinking, well, who are we going to put in this main event? And the knock on the door, and I actually went and answered it, and there he was, and he said, "Hi, I'm John Layfield. I'm looking for a job," just like that, and we came in and we sat down and talked to him a little bit, and found out that Brad Rengans had been training him, and he really hadn't had any matches, but he was ready to go. Brad kicked him out of the nest, and we looked at each other, and I think Manny Fernandez was in there, and we looked at each other and we just said, he's a big guy, and been trained by a guy who should know something, and let's put him in there and just see how he does. And the deal was, if he was a shits, then I'm going to tell Rod Price, who was our champion, just pin him, and the match wouldn't last very long. And if he was really good, or it felt like he had something that we could do something with, then I just let it go. And that's what I did. I could tell within 2 minutes, that we had something, and we let the match go, and he went through with our champion that night. And,
wow.
Yeah. And from there on, he was part of the stable, and we featured him, and of course he and Bobby Duncan, when Bobby came in, we made him a tag team, and that's that was another one of those crazy things. And I took him to Japan the first time. I took him to Japan before I took both of them, but I took John to Japan for the first time, and that was a fun experience. But we've had so many great times together. Some of them I probably can't tell publicly, but it was.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah, but he's a great friend. He still is to this day, and that's another one of those things about this business. And I tell guys when I'm training and when I do clinics and that sort of thing, that when you get through with this business, you may have championships, you may make a lot of money, but the thing you come away with is the relationships, and that's the most important part.
Absolutely. For those of you watching too, James, tell them where they can get your book at.
You can get it on Amazon. And I usually have some with me when we have shows. So if you want me to, if you want one that way or sign it, I keep telling people I'm dedicated to finishing the second one. I've got to get it done. And I'm planning on doing that within the next couple of months.
That's fantastic. We got Elbow Sausage with us. He says he can't wait for the December 11th show, and he wants to know if you have any Steve and Sean Simpson stories.
Oh yeah, great guys, super guys. Sean, I wasn't around Sean as much in the business. He kind of left it. He toward when I was getting in, he was kind of getting to the point to where he didn't want to be in it anymore, and he left. And Steve worked with Steve a lot. In fact, I took Steve to Japan a couple of times. which is kind of funny because a lot of people thought, here's this pretty boy guy, that he's going to get ate up in Japan.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Yeah, he's a
I mean, that would have been my first thought.
Yeah,
but
he hung. He hung. Yeah, he not only hung, but he exceeded. Yeah, he was. I knew he could. He's a tough guy. And
don't they own a mattress store or something?
They do. Well, they had a couple of them, I think, and I'm not sure if they still have them or not. But yeah, they did. Yeah, and their brother Stuart also. Yeah. Yeah, but they're super guys. Steve, I haven't seen any of them in a while. I haven't seen Steve in a good bit, but always pleasure to be around him. A good super person.
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them at some point in 2022. Eric has already brought it up more than once.
Yeah, well, good, because he had some incredible matches with both of them, especially Sean. They kind of competed for that junior title at world class for a while, and had some great matches, and it would be good to see them all. Yeah, I'm sure what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of those old guys showing up in our world class, this version of world class for sure.
That was always the thing, whenever you take on a name like that, yeah, you have to put out your own product, but at the same time, you have to always pay homage and show respect to where it came from. And so, it's always been an important part for me to bring in the people we can. Me and Eric were actually talking about Al Perez too.
Oh, Al. And,
yeah. My thing with Al is I'm like, Eric, I have this problem. Like, if you don't want to wrestle anymore, then don't look like you still want to wrestle. And Al Perez is in that category. He still looks like he wants
still
to
does.
wrestle.
Yeah, he does.
Before Animal, Joe Laurinaitis passed away, we worked together, I think the last year or two, before he passed away. And before that, for a couple of years, we could never get anything accomplished with each other, because every time we would talk, I'd be like, well, I need you to wrestle. Well, I don't wrestle anymore. Like, well, then why do you look like a wrestler? He's like, what do you mean? Like, if you don't want to wrestle anymore, why do you still look like you want to?
And
we go round and round about this. And I'm like, I can't bring you in for an appearance. I only bring you in to wrestle.
It's such a great.
And finally, I came. But
Joe was a great guy. I really miss him. He was fun to work with, fun to be around. You were talking about Al. I tell people, I get all of these questions when I do other podcasts or interviews and that kind of thing. I always ask you who are your favorite guys to work with. Al Perez would be right up there at the top. One of my very favorites. So smooth, so incredibly smooth, and so believable, and so much fun. He's the most relaxed guy I've ever been in the ring with, and it's hard to explain to these young guys how you can be relaxed and look intense. But Al had it down. He had it all, and
he still got it.
Yeah,
he still got it. I'm convinced. Yeah. 2022, Al Perez is going to be in world class at some point.
He's one of my favorite guys to ever step in the ring with, for sure. And for that matter, just a good guy too.
We got Sunset Moth with us, and he asked, how were the matches you had with Bruce Pritchard in 1992, and your thoughts on him now and his WWF success?
Oh God, I was hoping nobody bring that up. I did John Layfield and Jerry Briscoe do a podcast together.
Yes.
And I was a guest on that back 2 or 3, 4 months ago.
For everybody listening to, how can they find that podcast?
It's on YouTube. Okay. And yeah, you can find it on YouTube, and it's very entertaining. They do a good job. But yeah, John brought that up because they're always writing Bruce about something. And they brought that up, and he said, I'm going to find that. And I said, I hope you don't. That was actually Eddie Gilbert's idea. He came to me and he said, I want you to wrestle. And I went, what? He said, yeah, I don't want you to referee for several weeks. I just want you to wrestle. And I said, what are you talking about? And then he had this idea.
Hey man, you winged it as a ref. You couldn't do it as a wrestler too.
Yeah. Well, here's the crazy thing about that. How it started was that we had a battle royal. Bruce was a manager at the time, and so we had a battle royal, and I was on the outside of the ring, and Bruce jumped up on the apron to do something to help one of his guys, and I reached up and pulled his pants down, and unbelievably, he had a pair of what they call the T something. It didn't cover much. I'll put it that way. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was a horrible sight. And of course, I laughed. And as everything's ending, I'm walking off, and his guys attacked me, and he attacked me, and that's how it all started. And we had all kinds of matches, singles matches, boxing matches, had tag matches, had some Eddie and Terry Garvin or Terry Simmons were partnering with me, and he had the Black Dark Patriot and Mike Davis, and I don't remember, maybe somebody else, but
we got to find this stuff, man. We've got to find it. Is this something that would be in the Mario Savoldi library?
Oh, God.
I've got that connection. We might need to ask them if they have.
I hope you don't, but maybe you will. But yeah, it was fun though. I enjoyed doing it. It obviously wasn't classic wrestling, and Bruce and I aren't going to be. We don't go around telling anybody about it or bragging about it or anything. But it was fun. It was fun to do something different for a little while, and I guess it was entertaining. I hope.
It must have been. I would love to watch it. So I hope it turns up. If it does, I expect you to let us know so we can share it with the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to promise anything. Yeah, it was. I've had a few matches over the years, but that was one of those situations that Eddie came up with. It was kind of funny. It was fun.
We got Henry with us, and he says, "Hey everyone, I was a big fan of World Class. How did you feel about the sale of World Class to Jerry Jarrett, and how did you feel about Jerry Jarrett?"
I've always got along with Jerry Jarrett very well. I've got a lot of respect for him.
Me too.
It was a tough time. Like I said before, it was one of those times when wrestling was kind of, at least World Class was down a little bit. Eric had brought it back to respectability, and pretty much did it on his own, by himself. And I think probably when that happened, there was something fresh needed to happen. Something needed to shake things up a little bit. The unfortunate thing is the Memphis style and the World Class style are a little bit different. And I think some of the folks had a hard time taking to it really completely. But I had no problem with it myself. Jerry Jarrett was he's one of the smartest guys ever in this business as well, and a guy that I have, like I said, I have a tremendous amount of respect for and like, and it was just it's part of wrestling. Man, when wrestling is if you don't want it to change, you got problems because it's going to change.
Yes,
the situation is going to change. Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of people know this, but we were this close. Jerry Jarrett was actually almost a part of the World Class now that we're building.
Oh,
we were this close.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
and I have a lot of respect for him too. Super nice guy, very, very intelligent.
Yeah, the thing about Jerry that I always remember is he said it's all about situations or personal situations where if you figure out a way to create conflict, that then you got it made, because you can get people's interest in that, and that was his philosophy. About those personal relationships, in wrestling, where, you got one guy that doesn't like the other guy, or one guy that doesn't like what the other guy did, or a situation that causes that kind of interaction between the two guys. And that was his way of booking, and he was successful.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people might not know this, but whenever Vince McMahon almost went away over the steroid issue, Jerry Jarrett was set to run the WWF if that happened.
Yeah.
And, to put that in perspective, everybody watching this knows that Vince wouldn't trust his product with hardly anybody. So that should say a lot about Jerry right there.
Well, he actually did run it for a while. during the times when Vince was having to step away a little bit. But he was, yeah, you're exactly right. He was the guy that Vince had pegged to do that, and there'd probably be a very, very small handful of people that he might have trusted with that.
We got Todd with us, and he wants to know: is there anything else you can add about the transition from world class to USWA?
Well, the transition wasn't such a bad thing from world class to USWA. I mean, you remember Eric did the thing where he tore the banner down and all that kind of thing, and it was a influx of new talent for a while, and some different ideas, and that was, that it was just wrestling. I mean, it wasn't that bad a deal. The sad part about it is the business side of it got in the way, and that didn't last very long, and that you know how that is. That's part of it too.
Yeah, there were some exterior issues with that. I guess really interior issues that weren't really wrestling related. They were just business issues that were. I guess the Von Erichs and Jerry Jarrett did not really get along.
There were some disagreements about how things were handled. I guess I don't think any of us, except for maybe Jerry and maybe Kevin, even know the real details about it totally. All we knew is that there came a time when there was a cease and desist letter on the wall of the door of the sportatorium, and that was the end of it. But the funny thing about that is I talked to Jerry many years later, Jerry Jarrett, I'm talking about, and I asked him just straight up. I said, Jerry, I mean, you got to feel pretty negative about your situation, your experience in Texas. And he said, no, just the opposite. That was my favorite time. And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that. He said, I loved it. He said, I don't like how it ended, but I loved it.
Wow.
And that really shocked me because he was so positive about the whole thing, but you never know,
my conversations with him, we talked about it loosely, just, we just touched on it briefly.
Right.
And to me, I think he really was trying to do right by the Von Erichs, and maybe it was just just difference of philosophical things about how things should be done, but I don't think he really had any ill intent. I think he genuinely, he genuinely wanted it to work out for everybody. That's
and I don't think. I mean, I don't know all the details about the disagreements or what was wrong. I don't know if it was something about money or something about how some things were handled or booked, or I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I'm sure some of that was all involved in the whole situation. Honestly, I was going back and forth to Japan by then, and so I was kind of in and out. So I didn't get all the details about it, but it was it's just unfortunate that happened that way, and for Kevin came in and tried to restart World Class for a little while, and he didn't have TV, and he ran some spot shows, and I worked with him, but there was no way to rekindle what he had before at that point in time. And then 2 or 3 months later, I got a call from Mac, and he said, we got a new group coming in, and that was Global. And that was the next chapter of the Sportatorium.
What were your thoughts on Global? What was your favorite memories of that?
It's kind of weird because it's almost like two different promotions when it first started up, and again, I was staying in Japan a lot. I was going over there, and sometimes I'd stay 6 or 8 weeks and come back. And thank goodness for Ack. He all those years that I was doing that and working at Sportatorium, he always kept my spot for me. I never lost my spot, and I always credit that to Ack, because he was always I guess kind of my guy. He took care of me. But when it first came in, it was like it was going to be this huge deal with all these named guys coming in, and it was for a while. And I mean, we would do like 16 or 17 matches a night. It was just unbelievable. It was a marathon. But
oh boy,
it was horrible. It was horrible. But yeah, and then of course the bottom fell out of the money for Joe Pedicino, and it wasn't long before Gray Pearson came in and Max Andrews took over, and it was almost like a local promotion again. It was back to being that, and so it was like two different promotions almost, but it's the same name. And I'm really proud of a lot of the things we did, because we gave a lot of guys a start. We gave the experience, and you just look back on the guys that came out of Global and went on to become big stars, and without that, they may not have had that opportunity. So there was a lot of good things that happened with Global, even though it was kind of sad that some of it was another one of those situations where some of the business didn't get taken care of. It had over 200 syndicated outlets to begin with. Yeah. And plus,
that's a big deal, especially starting off.
Yeah. Plus we had, of course, Max Andrews was a syndicator, so he was taking care of that.
He's a really nice guy. I talked to him a couple of months ago. Eric had set that up.
I didn't even know where he was. I haven't talked to him since those days.
He's actually teaching college.
Okay.
In Stillwater.
But he kind of kept it afloat. Are we there?
Yep, I hear you now. Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you both.
What happened to me?
Can you hear us? I can hear you.
Jerry, well, he's getting it fixed. Mick Foley's coming to that big event in Irving.
I see you, Devin. I can't see anybody else.
Oh, I can see Jerry. I can see you. Can you hear me? Maybe take yourself out and put yourself back in. There we go.
There we go. We have Mick Foley coming. 10 huge matches. The return of Mark Lawrence, the original voice of World Class. Eric Embry. Obviously James Beard, Kevin Sullivan. We got the Texas Heavyweight Championship match, the Blood Hunter with Kevin Sullivan versus former WWE star Carlito. We got Danny B versus Kelsey Reagan out of Florida, who's one of Devon Dudley's students that's now been working professionally. Excellent worker. We got the debut of Jenny Santana, WWF Hall of Famer Tito Santana's daughter, against Erica Torres, the former youngest women's NWA champion of all time. We got Moonshine Mantell and Jacob Fatu Part 2. If you missed Part 1, it's on our YouTube. You can check out their match from a couple of months ago, and this match has serious implications in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, a lot of people have been commenting because I did post this thing from your website with Stephan Bonner as the current world-class pro wrestling champion. A lot of people have been saying, what about Moonshine and Jacob Fatu?
Well, for those of you that don't know, Stephan, he suffered a really bad injury a couple of months ago. He broke his vertebrae, had staph infection on both sides of his spine. So, we wanted to give him some time to see where he's at recovery-wise. And we're going to take it from there. We should know more on that in the next couple of weeks. He's getting better, thank God. And, it's just a very serious injury. Whenever you get hurt, you have to go check it out because you never know exactly what is going to happen with that. And that's kind of the case with that. We got AEW star and world-class star Fuego del Sol versus Gideon Vane. That match should be very good. We got MLW star Gino Medina versus former WWE star SWE champion Charlie Haas. That match is going to be amazing.
James is very familiar with Charlie Haas as well, as he's back with us again.
I'm not hearing you.
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
I guess he can't hear us, but we've done over an hour now anyway, so maybe we could just call it a podcast and have James back on another time.
Yeah, we can do that. I feel like we still have we still have a lot to cover.
But if you can't hear us, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear you. I don't know if you hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Well, we might have to end this because if he can't hear us, we're a little screwed.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and plug everything before we get out of here. Guys, don't miss Christmas Star Wars, December the 11th at Southern Junction in Irving.
But I can't hear what Devin is saying right now. But
you can or can't? I guess he can't. He can hear Devin, but he can't hear me. Yeah, don't miss Christmas Star Wars, December 11th at Southern Junction, Irving, Texas. Tickets are on sale right now at worldclassprowrestling.com or on Eventbrite. You can also get them off the Facebook event link. We hope to see everybody there. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow James on all of his social media outlets. You can pick up his book via Amazon, or you can get it in person and signed at the show. Let's see. You can follow World Class. Oh, we heard you that time. Can you hear us? No, you still can't. Okay. Follow World Class at World Class Rev on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us on Facebook at World Class Pro Wrestling. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We'll definitely do a part 2 with James so we can get everybody's questions answered. Thank you guys. Be good to each other. Love each other.
Before you go, we didn't talk about this last week, but Sting is coming to Wichita February.
I forgot all about Sting. I forgot all about him.
Yeah.
No, we're excited. I'm so excited to have the Stinger back. It'll be our first time to have Sting in Kansas, February 27th at the Cotillion. Somebody asked earlier when we're returning to Oklahoma. Well, I actually found out yesterday. I've just been really busy and forgot about it. We'll be returning to Oklahoma February the 12th in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. So you guys won't want to miss that as we return to one of our favorite places. And we will actually be back in Cleveland. Is that what that town's called? Yeah, I think it is Cleveland, Oklahoma. April the 29th. We've had a show there before. We'll actually be back there. That will definitely be a TV taping in Cleveland. So we've got a couple Oklahoma dates on the books. As we talked about earlier, we'll be in Irving and North Richland Hills every single month. We'll also be at WrestleMania weekend. You won't want to miss us there as we're working on something really special for everybody. Thank you guys for all your support like always. God bless. Everybody have a good night.